cork a seam that Barbara reefed out. This is called reefing. And you can make a reefing iron out of an old file by heating it, bending it over, and then sharpening it in a V fashion, like that. With a good sharp edge on either side, it helps clean out the corking groove that's cut on the deck when the boat's built. And then, after you get the old cotton out, I usually like to give it a little scrub with a wire brush just to make sure you got everything out. And then before I put new cotton back in, I'll go along and kind of feel the tension on the seam so I can decide how much cotton needs to go in it. What we're doing is repairing some deck leaks that we have. The boat is really to the point that we're going to have to consider reefing out all the seams on the deck and recorking the entire deck, but that's a lot of work. So we're just doing a stopgap measure right now of locating leaks and fixing them. Cotton, this is like, you know, an older style of treatment where a strand of cotton goes between every plank, and then a polysulfide, or back in the day it used to be pine tar, would go in to seal the cotton in. On bigger ships they would use cotton first, and then they would use oakum on top of that, which is a little coarser. The cotton tends to stop the leaks because it will swell just like wood, so it'll expand when it gets wet. The oakum was more rugged, so it would help hold the cotton in, and also the pine tar would stick to the oakum better because oakum has a coating of tar to begin with. So can you imagine melting hot pitch and trying to put in all these seams? That would be quite a job in itself, and particularly on the bottom of a boat. But anyway, the pitch is what they called naval stores, and North Carolina was one of the biggest suppliers to England back during the colonial days. Matter of fact, there was a tar pit right up across the street from us where they would cut down longleaf pine trees, and they would basically start a fire, but the fire wouldn't consume the wood. It would actually melt the pine rosin, which would then roll down a trench, and they would collect that. And so anyway, it was a very valuable commodity back during the colonial days and the days of tall ships, because that was their putty. They didn't have anything else. Caulking any part of a boat takes a lot of skill. Ideally, when you're caulking initially, all these seams are open. So what you do, you know, I'm sounding that seam right now. I would do that down my seams. I would look for seams that looked tighter than others. So let's say that this seam and this seam and this seam were really tight wood to wood, but this seam was open. I would caulk down these two seams first to help close that up, and then I would do this one last. So that way you're, anytime you shove cotton between two planks, you start to move them. So you want to, your whole idea here is to tighten up the planks, not to shove them off one side or the other of the boat.